After a month of bad news, Boston College could be getting their biggest transfer in school history.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, we got a packed episode. 2 more players enter the portal, one a big one, another freshman. We'll talk about what that means. But let's get into some good news. This weekend could be huge for portal visitors. I'm going to explain what's going on, what I'm expecting, and everything in between. But the biggest news of the day, what's going on with Deuce Knight? Now, if you are a Boston College fan right now, you have been avalanched, I think this is the best word, with bad news about this program for the past month. You lost basically your entire starting lineup on offense, much of your defense, and because of the way the portal is set up, you haven't been able to get any positive news. Well, I'm here to give you some morsels of things to look forward to. Now, Deuce Knight, a former 5-star quarterback, he's going to be a redshirt freshman out of Auburn, who chose Auburn out of, I think it was Notre Dame. I think he was committed to Notre Dame at one point, had a bunch of big offers. This was a top 100 recruit. He's number 8 right now in the transfer portal rankings. And this is not me just spitballing here, folks. This is not me just connecting dots. Boston College is very much in the picture for Deuce Knight right now. This isn't just, again, I'm not making this up. I've talked, I have different, sources, people I know, and there is a big push that Deuce Knight, and I've heard buzz, and I haven't been able to get it confirmed, and it's hard to get it confirmed because everything is silent right now for transfer portals. But I've heard good buzz that he's going to be at Boston College this weekend. That's what I'm hearing right now. And I think if you land Deuce Knight, that's one step in reclaiming all the things that have gone wrong in this past month. It's hard when you go 2-10 to go and then lose everybody in the portal. But it also gives you a chance to rebuild your roster. Yes, it stinks that you lost these players, but if you bring in a quarterback like Deuce Knight and you build him in as your quarterback, you're in a great spot for next year. The excitement level all of a sudden goes back up because Dylan Larnagin was fine, but you bring in, this is the biggest transfer you would ever have landed at Boston College. If you can get him here, you're starting to cook with a little bit of oil here. Deuce, I think, would work in this offense. I know Mitch and I had a little bit of a disagreement on this on yesterday's show, but think of what Grayson James did last year in 2024. Is he a pocket passer? No. Is he a guy that just stands there and throws the ball and makes his reads? No. Think of Grayson James at his best point last year and put it on steroids. And not literally, because I don't know. I hope that's not what Deuce is. I'm just saying as a comment. That's what Deuce can do. He's got athleticism out, up the, everywhere. He's a huge athlete. And so this isn't like you have to reimagine this offense. You did this 2 years ago. You could bring in this kid who's a 5-star, would bring eyeballs to Boston College, and immediately, if you landed Deuce Knight, If you landed him, this would open eyes of many other portal kids. I can tell you that. They would look at Boston College in a completely different way. So, yeah, the folks that are saying, oh, who cares? It's one player. Yeah, it is one player, but you have to start somewhere. You have to be able to get a player here that shows that the ship is heading in the right direction. And Deuce Knight could be that guy. You know, if other schools are looking at him, but his connection to Kenyatta Watson is so strong that he's going to come here and then they're going to be able to pay him, that shows something. I've heard buzz. Like I said on yesterday's show, and I'll stick with this. It's prove it season for me. Like, I'm not just going to give BC the benefit of the doubt. If they can prove it to me, I'm all on board, right? But if they can prove that they're going to pay for a guy like Deuce Knight, the reason that they let Dylan Larnigan go, because they don't, you know, I think Bill even said it, like he wasn't going to guarantee him the starting job. But you bring in a guy like Knight, and then you bring in maybe Mackenzie, the kid from Saginaw Valley, then you're showing the fans this isn't all dire and gloom at this point. This isn't a dire situation. This is how things work. And I will get into more of that in a little bit, but I think, you know, I see you folks in my comment section. I see you folks on social media saying, oh, you know, oh, this isn't going to happen. And then I see folks going, whoa, AJ knows what he's talking about. Yeah, no kidding, I do. No, I'm some guy that just makes stuff up. I've heard things. I've talked to people and outside of BC and in, you know, I've heard things like BC obviously can't talk about it, but I've heard enough from other sources that I know this is a big deal. And as I said, A to Z Sports said that he's coming for an official visit this weekend. That is huge. This is huge, right? You're going for the number 8 recruit in the entire transfer portal. Take Phil Dracovic and throw it to the side. Take, you know, whatever CJ Burton, whatever names that we all got it about, that needs to just go to the side because Deuce Knight is at a whole other level. And this would be the perfect chance for Bill O'Brien and his staff to show that they are the guys. Like, if you bring him in and he flourishes, then you know you've got the right staff and the right program in place because this is not last year's transfer portal. This is not going to if BC does what they did last year, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, and just goes for, you know, Valpo guys and guys from Elon, whatever, they're in big trouble. But if they start this off with Deuce Knight, this shows that this is very different. And everything I've heard is saying that this is very different. Again, prove it to me. But I've heard a lot from a lot of different folks that things are going to be different. This would be the guy to be the poster boy for that. And of course, you're going to have to get offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, wide receivers, running backs. But you know what? Starting it off with a quarterback like this is what you need. This is where BC needs to start. And you know what? If it doesn't work, then we all know where it goes from here. But this is the perfect opportunity for Will Long, Bill O'Brien to get their guy here, a guy here that would immediately put them on a lot of front pages. Do it. Get the excitement. It'll bring other players here. It'll bring a really exciting athlete to BC, and I think BC could do it. In a moment, this weekend is going to be enormous for Boston College. They need to hit it out of the park, but I've heard a lot of good buzz about this weekend, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame of a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new with boost bonuses and surprise. I love the bonuses. That's usually what I get into when it comes to college football games and anything on FanDuel. I love to find those and use them. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA happy hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA happy hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you for Locked On Boston College, our first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. You get ad-free audio of Locked On Boston College, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast feature. I love this. If you've not checked out our Discord server, it is incredible. I'm on there. You can get in there as well. And if you want to take your fandom to the next level, if you are a diehard Locked On BC fan, join our Everydayer All Access Club. You get to text me directly, and I respond. Believe me, I respond. I give you breaking news. I respond back to you. I send out extra stuff and exclusive videos. I do exclusive videos a couple times a week that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. So make sure that you become part of the Everydayer Club by going to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Find the Boston College feed. Boom, you're in it. I hope to see you all there. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black, and we're talking about where things are going because, as I said, the last month or so, it's been all negative news, and I've continued to reiterate that's the way that this new portal is set up. The fans just think the house is on fire because, there's no incoming players. In years past, we had guys going at the same time as guys coming in. It was a crazy back and forth. Now we have a whole month where guys are just declaring for the portal and no idea who's coming in. This weekend will change that. This is the first weekend coming up that you're going to start to hear good news. And I think a lot of BC fans are in dire need of good news. So what's going to happen? Some sources I've talked to, as I said on yesterday's show, I heard that they're going to have a very good list coming this weekend. That was one source I talked to. Another source I talked to told me that they're going to have anywhere over 25 official visitors this weekend. Of course, we can't get names yet of who is leaving, but that in itself is crazy. Just think about that. 25 or more official visitors this weekend. During college recruiting season, you get no more than 6 or 7. I can't even imagine what the staff has to do logistics-wise to get that to even work. But I'm going to keep throwing you nugs. This is what I'm doing here. More I've heard is that a lot of the recruits are coming. There's going to be people that a good chunk that potentially know Kenyatta Watson. I expect Auburn recruits transfers coming here, and I've heard some SEC names that could potentially coming as well. Unfortunately, because of the tampering thing that's going on right now, I don't know names yet. I'm just hearing this is the buzz I'm hearing, and that's the buzz. This seems like BC has a plan in place. This seems like BC has a number of potential big names coming in. So you look at what BC has lost, and you look at the different positions, and if you look at the totality of it, it's horrifying, right? Like you're looking at it and you're going, oh God, how are they going to overcome this? And I've said it before, and this is not to trash a player or anything like this. Like there's been a few that I'm like, oh, these ones hurt. There's going to always be a few transfers that hurt. To me, the two that really hurt are Reed Harris and Eric Doherty. Those are like two players I think are going to be pretty good. Turbo is good, but I think you can find Turbo somewhere else. Honestly, I think you can find BC has a history of finding running backs. And Omar Thornton's pretty good too. But basically every other player that you've lost, I think you can find other players that can do what they do, if not better. But the big key is, this is where the rubber hits the road. Can Boston College pay to get these players here? You've heard the buzz about all these other players leaving, and they're going to probably get huge pay. Like Reed Harris is probably going to get a huge payday. I'm sure. I've seen the crystal balls for Turbo to Indiana. He'll get a huge payday. But to replace the other guys, like to replace them, can you find the players that can do it and pay them? This is where the change at Boston College, this plan for new, we saw Blake James' email. We've seen the Bill O'Brien saying things and Kenyatta Watson saying that he feels positively about this. If they can do this, this is what others are doing. Like, I think the terrifying part for Boston College fans out there is that we've seen BC in years past not do what other teams are doing. They had this whole other system that was outside of what the transfer portal was, and they're trying to kind of reinvent this to keep things going. Well, now, after a year where they tried that and failed, they're trying something different, and they're promising a change. If BC can be successful here, well, then that is great. I know you're all terrified because of all these players leaving, but look at every other program. They all have the same problem. Syracuse has the same problem. Louisville has the same problem. Look at what happened to Iowa State. I know it's a coaching change, but that's still going on. Like every other school does this. It's not this is not the roof is collapsing at BC unless they if they don't adapt. If they adapt and they can bring in players, then this could still work. I still think, and I know Mitch disagrees with me, and that's fine, that this could still be okay. Because how many other teams, how many other programs have a mass exit? It happens everywhere. You only don't see it at schools like the Blue Bloods, those 10 to 15 schools at the top. Those are the only teams that really retain everybody. And even they lose a bunch too. So I think, at the end of this weekend, if we start to see SEC level players, Deuce Knight, good players from mid-level programs that have already accomplished stuff, then I think the new day at Boston College has dawned. And I've heard exciting stuff about what things are coming, but again, I want to wait to hear it come out of their mouth before I say anything about it. I think there's a plan in place, and I've heard good things about the financial piece of things. And if that all comes true, this weekend should be really exciting for BC football. My wife is going to kill me because I'm never going to be available this weekend. But you know what? I'm kind of excited for it. So we'll have to wait to see what happens there. Now, in our final segment, we got to talk about the guys that are still leaving. There's a few more that we have to get into, and I'll explain who those are in just a moment. There's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping out at checkpoint. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I've used Game Time twice to get BC football tickets in the last couple years. I got them for the Virginia game a couple years ago, and I did it because I wanted tickets. I knew it was going to rain out that were covered, and so my kids wouldn't get wet. I used the seat finder. Boom, it helped me out. Got good deal. It was amazing. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. Thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day, and all of you who are part of our daily routine. I really do appreciate you, and I hope you do become part of our Everydayer Club. I know it really does help the podcast, and if you haven't checked it out yet, I'm trying to give some really good content for all of you who are not part of that. Definitely try signing up. I think you'll enjoy it. So on Wednesday, we were not we did not avoid more portal departures as 2 more players entered the portal. And I'll start with the one that really doesn't really matter all that much just because he didn't really do much here, which was Samaj Fleming. He was a true freshman wide receiver I think he was out of Florida. He didn't play. I think he played just a handful of snaps this past year. He really wasn't a big role in this offense. And I know I'm assuming he had a really good role, relationship with Darryl Wyatt, who the wide receivers coach who now left, and now he's gone. So that you can add 2 more players, him to the list. And honestly, in terms of players lost, this wasn't a huge one. Obviously he can develop. He's a 5'8" speedster. He could have developed into something, but if you need the spots, you need the spots. The bigger news from this weekend, from Wednesday, was another starter leaving. And basically this one was a big one. Omar Thornton, safety, who committed to Jeff Hafley, stayed with Bill O'Brien, and jumped into the starting role pretty quickly in 2024, and then had a huge role this past season at safety. If you watched him, you know exactly who he was. He was number 0. He was like a heat-seeking missile who was always with violent hits, whether good or bad, because sometimes those hits he just bounced off of players. But I loved watching him play. I thought he was a really talented player, and I'm guessing he probably heard from somebody that he could make some more money elsewhere, and that's probably where he's going. So this was another loss, and you're down. The big piece after losing Thornton, who, again, made big plays, also missed a lot of tackles. I think that's also important to note. I still think you needed him back. But you look at who's left that you would say are big players that you don't want to lose, and you're down to 2-3 players. I would say KP Price, Amari Jackson, Jaden Skeet, and I mean I could put Kalen Chudzinski there, but he's not going anywhere, and Luca Lombardo. Those are the players you don't want to lose. And everyone else, it's at this point you're just like, okay, well, another spot you need to fill, because you're really, all the players that were contributors from last year, and again, it's a 2-10 team, but you still want them back, some of these guys back, I'm sure. You're thinking to yourself, you're thinking, you need some consistency back, right? Like, you're thinking that way. But you do look at other schools. There's other schools that just do this every year, and they churn out guys like it's nothing, and they have success, but it's going to be a big question mark for BC, right? You look at safety position now. You have KP Price, and Omarion Davis is gone. Omar Thornton is gone. You could put like a race. I think Ray Sykes is a safety, but you don't have much. So add safety to another list of players you need to get next year, because you don't have anybody. So this goes back to this weekend being huge, because honestly, I don't know the players that are coming yet. And as soon as I can get that list, I will get you as many players out there, and I'll breadcrumb stuff. I'm already working on that. But you name a position other than kicker at this point, BC needs it. They need tight ends. They need quarterbacks. They need running backs. They need offensive linemen, defensive tackles, defensive edge rushers, linebackers, probably 2, cornerbacks, safeties. They need everything at this point. They need to go and get all these types of players. So this weekend, it could be anything. And honestly, the number I heard for 25 was like 2 days ago. So it could be even more coming in soon, because I'm sure I would bet. Yes, it's tampering, but believe me, folks, if you think that this is being bad, everybody is doing it right now. Everybody. All, 136 schools in the FBS plus FCS schools are all setting up official visits for this weekend now. And it's tampering, but everybody's, because if you don't, you're stupid and you're going to get killed because of it. So this is what's happening. We're going to get the news. We're going to hopefully, I got my phone ready. As soon as things happen, I'm going to be going live. I'm going to be sending out messages. I'm going to be sending out videos. It's going to be crazy. Let's just hope the news is good. And we'll have it all up on Eagle Insider and here on Locked On BC. Well, thank you all. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy 2026. Hopefully 2026 is better than 2025 because 2025 stunk. We're going to get better hopefully this year, and we'll get into everything. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button on Locked On BC on YouTube. And again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.